Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating. We've said this many times already. We're not just about dating stories. We don't just scratch the surface, we go deep and we talk about the whys, the why of people, why people do the things they do. Why is that?
There's so many things that people do when it comes to dating.
There are so many whys I have for myself. Like, why am I wearing a hat for the second week in a row? Because my hair is so unruly at this point. I've just given up. This is
It is
my life.
hot. It is so hot
So
out
hot.
still. I feel like in Northern California, we're just not used to this, which I mean, I'm sure everyone that either lives here or hasn't has probably seen in the news that we're amidst now wildfires. So add another thing to 2020 here. So yeah.
Ugh. As I drink my boba, because we're recording this on a Friday, and if you've listened to other episodes, it's Boba Friday. It's very, very important for me. So at least I'm religiously drinking my boba. But the fires are getting so bad, and it's my boyfriend and I, we are trying to celebrate our 2-year anniversary next week. So we booked a week in San Luis Obispo. Slow. Never been there. Heard it's beautiful. And now they're being impacted by the Santa Cruz fires.
Mm-hmm.
And the AQI is so bad over there. It's over 200. So it's actually worse in San Francisco. So we're trying to figure out if we should go or not, and if we can get a refund from Airbnb. You just cannot fucking plan anything anymore.
No. I mean, that's why we're recording on a Friday, because originally Yue wasn't going to be here and I didn't want to interrupt her romantic getaway. So we were like, let's do it earlier. Then as we're getting on this call, you're like, yep, we probably could have done Sunday because we're trying to see what's going on here. But originally I was supposed to go to Sonoma this week or for the next 2 weeks. And I actually decided not to go just because I felt uncomfortable with like the group size and all of that, but the whole group might not be going anymore there either.
Really?
Yeah, the host basically said that it, like the liability of having them up there when it's a fire, and then also it's just super smoky. So it's the whole point was to be like outside at a pool. Nice weather, it's kind of like defeats the whole purpose. So I think they're trying to figure it out. I mean, I wasn't going to go anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter to me, but this whole trip has been like one of those like ups and downs that just, it's really hard to plan. I think this trip has been planned since July, and I was going, I was not going, I was going and not going. And like, who knows if anyone's going now.
My friend was supposed to be in Guerneville this whole week. He planned it with his wife. They bought a bunch of rum and Coke. Like, this is their plan, to drink rum and Coke outside in Guerneville for a week. And they got there, I think Monday or Tuesday at 3 p.m., checked into their Airbnb, and they were evacuated by 8 p.m.
Oh my God. I think also though, if you do end up staying here for your anniversary, I just did this from a team building activity. It was an Airbnb experience that was virtual.
What did you guys do?
It was actually super cool. It was a cooking class, but it was done with someone in Portugal. So she taught the class from Portugal. So it was a Portuguese cooking class, but it was such a great idea. And it was really fun and interactive. It's also one of those things, I think, for all the daters that are listening right now, it's a great date idea because I think you really get to see someone's personality when it comes to cooking. It was so funny just hearing the different personalities come through. Like, some people are like, am I doing this right? I have a billion questions. I've never cooked before in my life. And then there's other people like me that I'm just like, I'll see what happens. We'll see how it turns out. It's just like you totally see people's personalities come through. So I think that could be an alternative. It can make you could go anywhere. It's kind of like the Hinge dating experiment we did. You could travel anywhere through Airbnb experiences.
Logistically, how does that work? You have to purchase all the ingredients ahead of time?
Yeah, so you basically got a Zoom link. So what was really cool though is she set up a camera over her pot that she was like sauteing in.
Oh, like a close-up.
Yeah, so it was exactly. So it was like her on one, and then another camera that you could like see how she was prepping it more. So I thought that was really good. But yeah, you had to buy the ingredients. Like, she picked something that didn't require a ton of ingredients, but I did get an Instacart order this morning, so I got all my ingredients sent to me.
That's so fun.
yeah.
We're living in the virtual world now, and all these small businesses have to figure out a way to make it work. So that's really great. And this is
Yeah.
it really relates to our episode today because it's all about this couple that met over TikTok of all apps. Like, what the hell? Except on 90 Day Fiance, I believe one of the couples also met on TikTok. But in what world are we living in? But they have this lovely love story, and it was originally posted in our Facebook group, right, Julie?
Yep. Someone posted in our Facebook group, and with TikTok, you only get a minute, so we didn't get the full story. So they were like, you need to have these people on your podcast and to hear from them. So, yeah, I can't wait to air this.
And we also have the results from last week's Would You Rather question. Would you rather date someone who has a history of dating people who are very different and diverse, or who have a history of dating people who are very similar to you? So we'll get into that discussion, but before we get into this heated discussion, I know Julie has a lot to say.
Before we go into the Would You Rather, I wanted to talk quickly. I know we won't go a ton into politics on this podcast, but it was the DNC, so really big week. And I don't know, personally, I just feel like I have so many emotions about this election, but I feel so inspired by Kamala Harris, and it's just, and like Joe Biden too. I was kind of on the edge on him before. I mean, I was still pro him over Trump for sure, but I feel like after this DNC, it has really come loud and clear that I don't know, I'm very excited about this. I feel like this is a moment in history that is going to be very monumental. And also, just side note, Trump's response to the fires is absurd.
Oh my gosh.
Raking the leaves more? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What planet is he on? Because we're not living on the same planet.
No, we're not. But this is such a monumental election because the country is so divided. And I wanted to get your take on this because this has come up in our Facebook group before too, is putting no Trump supporters or something blatant in your profile. Is this a yay or a nay? There were definitely people that said this is a must-have. This is something I put on. If someone is a Trump supporter and I'm not a Trump supporter, I don't want anything to do with them. And then we had someone argue that, this person was actually from Canada, so maybe they're not in the pulse as much as Americans, but they were basically saying a dating coach would tell you to avoid topics like politics and religion, and you should get to know the person because you could be missing out on someone really great. And I definitely see both sides of that situation. I see on one side, it's a filter for people that are similar values and beliefs. And I think politics used to just be more about taxes and financial side, but now it is social issues. So I think there is a lot there that really does tell you about who you're dating. But I do also see the other side. I guess it really just depends how important this is to you. And I know one of our members of the Facebook group who's a Black woman mentioned I need to be with someone that understands myself. I can't just, see how it goes and take that time. I need to know right away if someone is going to support racism or not. And I totally get that. So I wanted your take. I know my personal take, it's a tough one because it's on one side, I feel saying no anything is kind of setting yourself up to be there's a negative feeling about that, right? Regardless if it's politics or anything else. But I also see the side of this is so core to who I am. So yeah, I'm very mixed on it. So I wanted to get your take on it.
It still reminds me of when we went to South by Southwest last year, and we went to all those talks about diversity and inclusion. I almost said conclusion. No, diversity and inclusion. And what we really learned was in order to diversify your perspective is that you have to have diverse perspectives in your life. And maybe it doesn't have to be a partner or someone you're dating, but I feel we just can't be each other's echo chamber all the time. I don't want to date someone who is on board with everything I say because I really want to know different perspectives. However, I agree with you. When you have a strong feeling, if you're like pro-Trump or anti-Trump, those are just very strong feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And that would already be a red flag to me, is that this person is pretty set in how they feel, and maybe they're not open to discussion. So that's the only thing I would think of. It's just like, why be so regimented in how you feel?
Yeah. I think like for me, I personally would, like just because of values, I would also rather not date a Trump supporter, but I don't feel like I'm going to put that on my profile just because I want to like get to know the person and have the conversation and not just filter things out. I think my general take is anytime you put no something, whatever that is, it's setting this negative tone. And I would rather, because you could also be eliminating someone that isn't a Trump supporter, but feels like there's a negative tone that's happening from your profile.
Well, I was also going to say, yeah, that could happen. Or you're also eliminating people who may vote Trump, but aren't Trump supporters.
Right.
There is a difference there. And I've heard from multiple people, they're kind of like political stance on why they would vote for Trump. And it's not for the person, not for him, but they have the reasons. I mean, whatever, I'm not going to get into it. But I think just having that really strong feeling of like anti-Trump or anti-this, it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, it's really hard because it's not even something I've ever thought about with dating because everyone in San Francisco is liberal, basically.
Yeah.
Like you might encounter someone, but I feel like it's not even your go-to thing that you're filtering for. It would be something that like comes out later if that's the case.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just haven't given it that much thought. And I think like I am someone that definitely identifies as more like liberal or libertarian. So I think it would be, if they were super conservative, it might be a turnoff, but I also maybe would like to see like on a case by case, depending on who the person was and what their beliefs were. I think it is hard to make the blanket statement, but I also do recognize that I'm a white woman also, and that other people might have differing opinions of where they live and their race and all of that. So I would love to hear what our listeners think, because I don't think there's a clear-cut one on this. I think you can definitely argue it either way.
This is a tricky one, but I would also suggest, just a suggestion, instead of saying anti-Trump supporters, how about just list out all the things that you're anti-racism, anti-discrimination, anti-systemic racism. Like, I would rather see the values that you align with and what are non-negotiables versus like a person, right?
Right. Or not even anti, like, can you say like, I'm pro open-minded, like something, I think like it's that, I know like, like we are anti, but I think in the dating app context, anytime you can spin it to be positive, it'll be better. So
I think that's a very good point.
You have to remember someone doesn't know you at all. They're just seeing words on a profile. So
yeah.
Anyways, I want to bring it up because it's very relevant with the timing of the election. And I think this stuff is only going to heat up in the next couple months. Like it's going to it'll be interesting to see if it becomes more and more prominent on dating apps. So I'd love for listeners to let us know, especially in other areas of the country, because realistically, I'm probably not going to see it on dating apps just because everyone here is so Democrat.
Yeah, let's just we just encourage more conversations, especially from people with different perspectives. And I wouldn't even say opposing perspectives, just different. Just hear them out. Just have an open mind about it, because these discussions are what's going to propel us to move forward. Should we go to the would you rather?
Let's do it.
Refresh of the question was, would you rather be with someone with a history of dating people who are very different and diverse, or who are very similar to you? So there are definitely different interpretations of what this question is. And we talked about this a little bit. It's so contextual to what you've experienced that has been a conflict or adversity. So for some people, they put it in a race context. And some people, they put it in like a professional context. So we had a lot of really good discussions on Facebook.
I'm glad we added it to Facebook our Facebook group, because before it was just on the Instagram poll. So definitely still join and follow us at Dateable Podcast on Instagram and do the poll, but you can also do it on Facebook in our group. Yue is going to be posting it every week at the same time about as the Instagram poll. But I think what's great about Facebook is you get that discussion that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the poll, like some people will message us, but it's not like a multiple way discussion. So I don't know. I really it was like, I don't want to, I'll let you reveal the answer, but I feel like it was a pretty majority on this one. Like there was.
Yeah. What's your answer? What
my answer? Oh, this is so tough because I actually went back and forth on it. And I actually ended up going with the similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason why was that it didn't necessarily have to do with looks, like race and all of that. But at the same time, I don't know, like my ex, like he would always be like, you're like exactly my type. And there was something like really nice about that I never questioned if he was attracted to me. I never questioned if there was someone else out there that he'd be more attracted to. It just, like, it never even crossed my mind because he was so vocal about just like how beautiful I was and how much his type I was. So I liked that. I think the way I interpret it also is them knowing what they're looking for. Like, I think if it's too diverse, it could mean that someone's unfocused. And again, it really depends on how you interpret this. Is it looks or is it just their whole package? Mm-hmm. And I think when I looked at it like the whole package, it's, they know what qualities they want. Like for me, I know what I'm looking for. It's now I just need to find it, but I know what I'm looking for. Like I've dated enough people, had enough relationships that I know what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So I think that's the benefit of, like, I don't know. It's a tough one because like someone could argue like maybe you don't know if you haven't experienced this person, and that's very valid. But I think when you're too all over the place, it can be hard to know what you ever want. Like I think of like your friend that you mentioned once in New York that was going on like all these dates that literally by the end like had no idea what she was looking for anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good to keep an open mind and not have like a singular focus type. But also if you're not, if you have no direction, you're basically directionless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what would you pick?
These are the conversations I think is what I love about the would you rathers, because one, it's your knee-jerk reaction to how you interpret the question already says a lot about you. For me, when I first saw this question, I went immediately to race because I've definitely dated outside my race and I've dated within my race. I went into the context of interracial dating, and I hate being with someone who's not Asian but has only dated Asian girls.
Right.
So that's when I picked different, diverse, because I rather them not have yellow fever. That's how I think about it. But if it was in the context of Asian and Asian dating, then obviously race is sort of eliminated. It's not even a question. Then I would want them to date similar to me. Mm-hmm. Someone like me, fun and, kind of wacky. Like that shows me that they also are attracted to my kind of personality. Right. But Julie, I thought this was really interesting. When I looked at the people who voted, and I will reveal the results, don't worry. When I looked at the results, and this is just such a small sample, but it's on Instagram and also on Facebook, the majority of the people who picked similar to me were a minority.
Interesting.
And I
would have guessed the other.
And I asked a few, and this is very fascinating. So I asked a few people who are Black. I asked a few people who are Middle Eastern. I asked a few people who are Asian. And for some of the Black women, especially Black women, and some of the Middle Eastern women have said to me, it's because I want to make sure that we don't encounter any of the challenges with interracial dating. So I rather that someone else has paved the way with like maybe bringing me to the family.
Yeah, you don't want to be the first.
You don't want to be the first.
You don't want to be the one educating everything.
No.
Yeah.
No, and I found that super interesting. But it's really just how you interpret the question. But I will reveal the results. And Julie, you're right. You're not in the majority. The results are 62% who are very different than me, and 38% similar.
Oh, last time I looked at it, it was even skewed more. So
Yeah.
it did even out a little. That's so fascinating because I actually would have guessed the opposite, that it was like just from our interpretations. I would have thought maybe if you were in a more of a minority, you would have guessed or done the different, because you don't want to be like one of many, like you've mentioned.
But the other argument is, when you're involved in interracial dating, you also don't want to be the first either.
Right.
Because then there's that sampling, the buffet effect, and you're like, I'm not here for you to sample. We had this conversation on our episode with Yalitza, right? And she was like, I don't want you to sample me. So it really goes, this question is so contextual to the last time you experienced adversity or conflict or something that was very, very memorable. So I love it. I love it. So we're going to be posting another Would You Rather this week. You can look that up on our Instagram or on Facebook. Now we can get to the episode.
Yay! No, this is such an exciting episode because I think it is the reason why people react so positively is because it's, it actually kind of reminds me of the CNN article that we contributed to. That was Love in the Time of Corona. And I think right now everyone needs to hear that good story, like that fairy tale type of story, like the positive influence, because I feel like it's really easy to get down on all the ways that COVID-19 is not helping our dating lives, right? It's harder to meet people. It's, you have to go on these weird, awkward, socially distanced dates. Like there's so many negatives, but if we really reframe how we think about it, we can also find the positive. So I think hearing the story that we are about to share with you all, we're not going to give too much away about their story, but basically they just met on TikTok and now they're happily in a relationship. So I think just hearing stories like this, I know for me, it inspires me that really like you can get creative of where you meet people this day and age.
And you never know who you'll meet and where you meet them.
I mean, I think in general, people are going to get a lot more creative of where they meet people, and apps that weren't necessarily traditionally dating apps, like a TikTok. Like who would have ever thought the dancing app for Gen Z would be a place where millennials could be? So I think stuff like that is going to start to come. And like even like our Facebook group, it's not like necessarily a single scene by any means. It's for everyone, and just platonic friendships to form. But if something comes out of that, and we've already seen something come out of that, like that's fantastic. And I think people are going to find these other avenues, and we've been talking about it for so long. The dating apps are going to start to mimic real life more, even if they're digital. And I think that is really what's going to start to happen.
Something we saw a few years ago that I'm surprised no dating app has implemented is video profiles. And I do think there's going to be a marriage of dating apps and a TikTok kind of functionality, for people to create content and to show off their personality. The pictures just don't do it. Yeah. See, but a few years ago when we saw this, we were like, no, nobody would ever
use this.
Yeah. But now we're like, yeah.
That app was way ahead of their time, basically.
Way ahead of, they need to resurface. All right, let's get to this episode.